What is up, my friends? It is Horse, the king of the nut shot, and this is straight from the horse's mouth live. And we're in my basement right now, which pretty much means things are about to get weird. And on top of that, I have a very, very special guest tonight. He's a legend. He pretty much brought personality to parkour. He's the man. Check him out.
Oh, I thought you knew what you were doing. What happened, man?
He is talking to him the whole time, Jage. He's talking so much smack.
Oh, man, we're tired. Jesse
Laflair got the last lap.
3, 2, 1, action!
There he is, Jesse.
What's up, everybody?
Laflair.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, man. So I was just playing some of your stunt reel, which got me so pumped up.
That was sick.
So anybody doesn't know, me and Jesse met on Ultimate Tag, really auditioning for Ultimate Tag.
Yeah.
And but really, we kind of have like this longer path kind of getting to where we were today, and kind of did some things that we kind of both did growing up and inspiring to kind of entertain people. So once we got onto Ultimate Tag, I feel like we really connected and had a lot in common, and I was super stoked to do the show with you.
Hell yeah, same here.
So I have a bunch of questions for you that I was genuinely excited. I was thinking about, what am I going to ask? And this is kind of my first run at doing what I guess a podcast where I'm kind of like interviewing somebody. And I was like, man, I actually there's some things that I really want to know and kind of get into. So I'm really, really excited to kind of get into this. So first of all, how are you doing? How is it in Los Angeles right now?
I mean, it is like it is in most places, I think, especially any major city. We are still quarantining pretty hard. The beauty of what I do as a professional parkour athlete is I love going to urban environments, and the one blessing that we do have is, I'll put on my mask and go out to a school that's completely empty that I would normally get kicked out of and go train for about 2 hours straight and not see anyone. So I've been using it. I've still been getting out, but in kind of hanging out with people's obviously not been an option because I do have my lovely wife and 5-month-old baby that I'm still trying to protect and not get this crazy sickness in the household. Yeah.
So most I'm assuming all the gigs pretty much right now are in complete halt.
Oh yeah. Hollywood, in terms of being a stuntman or actor in that space, is completely shut down. And I was fortunate enough to work one of the last days before it did shut down. But on that day, I was on the set of actually the remake of Saved by the Bell, doubling the main actor on there, and all these whispers started happening, and they were like, "Are we going to shut down?" They just shut down. This production just shut down for 2 weeks, and they're going to shut down. And all of a sudden, by the time we left the set, they all knew they were coming back for one more day, and then they were done until further notice. So, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's literally the craziest time of our whole entire lives right now.
Yeah,
nothing like this has ever happened. So let's get into it. I should know this, and I'm pretty sure you've told me this before. But where are you from?
I'm originally from Long Island in New York, and then I moved to New York. Well, I went to school upstate New York, moved to New York City for 4 years, and then been out in LA for a little over 10 years.
Okay, so that's like a mix. Long Island, is that city, suburb?
Where I grew up was pretty suburb. Yeah, it's it's about 2 hours outside of New York City toward the eastern side of Long Island, where Montauk and nicer places are, but I'm kind of in the middle. A little bit of woods, a little bit of streets. Yeah.
Awesome. And then when you moved to more to New York, was that was city, or is that was
That
still
was yeah,
that
that
was
was
city?
city. Yeah, yeah.
Nice. So you got like a big kind of like probably range of not only culture, but I don't know, just like nature and everything. You got everything when you were growing up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that has shaped me so much. Like I grew up climbing trees and exploring the woods and just completely messing about, and then yeah, getting to move into the city where life is like happening at such a crazy speed, and especially that New York time, right? Like everything's like ba 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 ba, and then coming out to LA where it's kind of a mix of it all, where it's very city life. There's so much happening, but the speed is a little bit slower, and people are a little less stuck in like the grind of it all because hey, it's the weekend. I'm gonna go to the beach, but I'll see you Monday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I dig it on the West Coast right now. I think it's a really nice mix for me to yeah live the life that I want to live.
Nice. So, like when I think of you doing parkour, I think one of the coolest things is when I watch your videos, like you can never mistake that it's you when you're doing your stuff. That like there's a uniqueness in the style that you invented, and a lot of times you watch a parkour video and it could be like 100 different people and you wouldn't know who it was necessarily, and you have just crafted this style and this personality that you bring to everything. So I kind of want to get into what life was like before you did parkour. Any
Yeah, sure.
hobbies or action
Yeah, yeah,
sports?
yeah. No, I mean it's a beautiful segue because so much of what I did before parkour influences why my style is the way it is, right? And that really was when I growing up, I was surrounded by motor vehicles. My dad was like a motorhead. He ended up moving out of his house at some point, living in his car. So he learned how to like rebuild engines and keep maintenance on his car, and then got into drag racing. And so growing up, when I was at the age of 3, I was riding motorcycles. I couldn't even touch the ground. Like literally at the point, my dad's like, "All right, when you have to stop, you just jump off and kill the switch. Like, otherwise, it's gonna fall on you and you're gonna get burned." So, um, a really high risk, high reward upbringing in that sense. But those sort of motorcycles, quads, snowmobiles, all these different things led me to like the love of action sports. And that love continued to sort of morph into any sort of thing that allowed me to feel the feeling of either going like flying or going fast or so I did things like surfing and snowboarding and skateboarding, and I really got into dirt jumping and building trails. And then the one thing I really latched onto the most probably was aggressive inline skating, because it was like it felt like everything I was doing was leading to like this moment of just like, now these things are attached to you, and it's not the device that does the tricks, you're the thing that does the tricks, which then of course translates even further into parkour. And then now it's like, oh well, now you're not even rolling out on something. If you jump a set of stairs, your body is the thing that has to dissipate that movement. So all of a sudden I realized like parkour and free running was like, I am I am the device. I am the thing that has to do the tricks, and all of that kind of, I mean, I grew up watching, The Matrix and things like that just like blew my mind. And I dreamed of being a stuntman in Hollywood. And, I would jump into the pool like with handcuffs and shit, thinking about what it would feel like to be like a Navy SEAL or something. So I think there was always a passion for wanting to push the human limit. But in terms of style and originality, I think a lot of what I seek in parkour comes from the roots in other action sports and trying to mix in other elements of what either other sports have done, or just trying to break new ground and discover something that our sport hasn't seen. Because I think the second we all try to do the same exact thing is the second the sport's going to die.
Yeah. So, I think about myself, and obviously there was nobody going out and getting kicked in the nuts for a living when I was growing up. But I kind of, so I originally started kind of getting interested in filming from watching the Tom Green Show, and then Jackass, and at the time, so my buddies had video cameras and we're filming skateboarding. I'm in that kind of action sports kind of mode, and I'm flipping off things. Is there anybody or anything like personalities or TV shows that not just made you want to do action sports, but then made you want to try to transition into filming it and being like the personality?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was, of course, into Jackass and guys, and even before the whole Jackass stuff came out, yeah, obviously Tom Green. Like, it's just like there's something about going out and having fun on camera. Like, and I always had a camera, man. I have videos of me like 5 years old vlogging with a VHS camera, being like, oh my god, like I literally like am just talking to this camera as if I'm speaking to people. And so I think there was this natural yearning to want to film. And I discovered recently on my grandma's home videos that she was very much a filmmaker, and she would say like, all right, tell the people what's happening here. And like, so I think a lot of this really young information got translated into like wanting to present a personality and talk to people that don't really exist in the moment, but exist on the other side of the viewership on a camera or a video. Right. So as I grew up, yeah, Jackass really like was like, oh my God, wait, we could just go do all the things I really like to do and jump off stuff and make asses of ourselves and make a living out of it. And we started to try to make funny videos and skit videos. And I remember very specifically one of my friends had not just a camera, but he had some sort of editing program. It might have been Final Cut or something even way before that. But I remember like him showing me a video. He did something, whether it was like a voice bubble or something that came in, and I was like, my mind was blown. And I was like, I'm coming over tomorrow. Can you just like, you can just do whatever you're going to do, and I'm just going to sit there and watch. And yeah, and actually that's how I learned to edit. I produced a film called Good to Go. It was called Disturbing the Peace. Our crew was called Good to Go Crew. And it was like an hour and 45-minute feature length Jackass style film. And it took me so long to edit all the skits. But that's how I learned what looks good and how do you cut things and using music and all that stuff. So yeah.
So really right from the beginning, when you started parkour, it was already hand to hand with camera and shooting yourself. And
yeah, absolutely. And I think not even just that. My intro into it all was also like marketing. Like I knew coming from a break.com, which we should talk about, like the power of building a following in numbers. So when YouTube started to pop, if you go back to my first YouTube video on Laflair parkour page, it's like next video at 10 subscribers, a little thing pops up at the end, and then next video at 25 subscribers. So I was almost like naturally promoting. I was already using these like loud thumbnails because I think I also, for whatever reason, I grew up like knowing how to market, but also kind of being passionate about seeing marketing work. And it's always been fun for me, and still is fun for me, to like try to play the system and figure out the rules and break those rules and things like that.
Yeah. So you mentioned break.com, and I remember the first time we met, it came up in conversation, and my mind was actually blown a little bit because I knew who you were from parkour videos, but then you knew who I was from break.com.
Yeah.
And break.com, for anybody that is a little younger or has never checked it out before, was a user-generated website where people would upload content to this webpage, break.com, and on the front page was their tagged their homepage, and they would handpick videos essentially to go viral. So they would post these videos on the homepage, so people would go there every day and check out these videos. And literally any video that they would post would get 500,000 views, 1 million views, and then get shared on a ton of other websites, which at the time was huge. Isn't like today when something went viral before, it wasn't like multi-million views. Every once in a while it was, but this was like the beginning of going viral.
Yeah.
And the added touch to that was that they would actually pay the people that would make it to the homepage. So it's actually how I started making a living at doing stunts. Was I randomly uploaded a video to the site because somebody showed it to me, and I went up on their homepage the very next day and made $200 and was like, let me try one of my other videos because I have like 100 of these. And I kept just getting videos, and the more that they would post, the more my other like YouTube videos would do. They would get more views, and the more money I would make, and it kind of started my career. So what was your relationship with Break?
I mean, I think it was the same thing. It was like a platform where I saw not just people on MTV making money or getting views from doing the fun shit that we pay people who were doing it. And I've always, I still am always searching for the next platform to like build a following on. And break.com was definitely that thing. And being in that mix of like the Good to Go crew and creating those videos and trying to like, it was every night. That's literally all we did. Every night, all night. We'd go out and film skits or make pranks or jump off this roof onto that tree and like just the wildest things because it was like, this is the best ever. And, we loved watching it back. But break.com for me was also interesting because it had a system. Like it was one of the first algorithms that I'm ever aware of. And I knew that like you can vote a video up to homepage. And if it was on there quickly and it got enough votes, all of a sudden it would start to get promoted. And then if more people voted it up, which most people did because they're like, this is cool. Yeah, I like that. You can essentially hack the system. And I did that. Like I did a fake prank video with my friend and this other friend that I had who was this girl. She was pretty hot, had big boobs. So we knew like all those elements would work. And we scared her by jumping out of a present. She falls back out of frame and off of a chair and looks like she just hits the ground really hard. But I ended up creating like 30 email accounts, logging in, logging out, upvoting, logging in, logging out, like doing this thing, and got the video on the homepage and sold the video to break.com. And I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah,
I figured it out.
that's so funny because I used to do the same type of thing where I would first of all I would upload it in the middle of the night because I would figure there wasn't as many uploads going up at the same time, and
Nice.
then I would go on like MySpace and stuff like that, and I would shoot it out to people and be like, hey, can everybody go on and like this? And then
Yeah.
I would have my own accounts where I would go on and like it.
Yeah.
And it was like, and then one of the other things I used to do after that, so after you kind of come up with like a cool title, something that you think would be catchy, but then Break would change the title and put whatever they, catchphrase they'd want up for the video. So at the same time, I would upload my video onto YouTube, and as soon as it would go up on the Break homepage, I would go and I would change the title
So smart.
so that I would catch those like search queries that were coming
Yeah.
from the internet and try to get it back to the source.
Yeah, that's genius.
So
Yeah, I mean, but I think this is like a lot of the stuff that a lot of people don't get into. Like when people see personalities that are popular, or a lot of times, you'll have the people be like, this chick just has hot boobs and that's why she's got 2 million followers. And like being on the back end of the work, I'm never like, no, there's not people just following her because she's hot. Like she's doing work, she's promoting, she's doing collaborations. I'm sure it's helping, right? We all have our skills. Parkour is helping me. But I think there's so much for the guys that have been doing it for so long that have like continue to try to refigure it out. And that's the other side of it, is we have to reinvent ourselves because the internet is like constantly changing the way they are doing things.
it really is. I struggle with it because I've took time off, like here and there, like a year or two off, and it really leaves you behind if you're not on it all the time.
Yeah, it does.
So when you were shooting break videos and shooting stunt videos, was parkour yet part of that?
No, not at all, actually. I mean, at the time I could like do a big backflip off of something or a really sketchy front flip, and the flipping side of it, I had a trampoline growing up, so I always tried to learn as many tricks as I possibly could. And but no, I think parkour was really discovered for me in college. I saw some kids jumping around and got involved, actually did a big backflip, and they were like, that's cool, man, but that's not what we're doing. We're doing parkour. And they were very much about like the fast and efficient movement, overcoming obstacles. So for me, it was like, okay, cool. This is great. Like this, you're telling me I don't even need to like wax a ledge, or like I could do this anywhere at any time if I learn these new skills. And yeah, so that was it. Since then, it's just been my life.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always say that I've kind of been doing parkour for like 20 years now, but that's kind of like partially true because I didn't like see parkour on like YouTube or something and be like, all right, well, I'm going to go do that. I just like kind of transitioned from, I was a gymnast when I was little, so I was like from like 2.5 to 12, I was a gymnast, and then I got into skateboarding, and it was all about shooting footage and doing gaps and big drops and things of that nature. And then I'd be out with my buddies, and I would just like try like a huge like I don't know, like a 10 set like 20 times in a row and be like bailing and hurting myself, and it wasn't exciting. And I'd be like, screw this, and I'd run up and I would flip down the stairs, and like and then when we were with people, that like was more exciting. So I kind of started, I transitioned into doing flips, and I called it we called it urban hucking is what, but for me it wasn't about efficiency. It was about going and finding the biggest stair set or the biggest ledge and backflipping and flipping and trying to stick it. Like I used to try to do backflips off like school ledges, but try to actually like land without rolling. And if I saw a video with somebody landing and rolling, I'd be like, oh, that's like they didn't actually land it. And and then we would start seeing the kind of like the Russian videos on YouTube of them doing like going on the roofs and all that, some of the David Bell stuff. And it's so crazy how far it's progressed. Because I remember for years I was like, man, I really think I could do it, but it'd be super sketchy, but I want to be the first person to like do a double backflip off something. And then now it's like,
if you can't double backflip standing flat, who are you?
So like even back on my break days, like sometimes I would put like just some like gigantic flips on there, to try to get views. Like, but it was more like in a crazy sense, like just trying to shock people, I guess, compared to like an actual sport. But that's not to say that I don't like. I mean, so after I stopped doing gymnastics, I ended up going back and doing like an intermediate class, which is essentially it ended up being my one buddy who skied, and he wanted to come in and learn flips on the snow. And like, so that's where we started learning wall flips, and we started learning like off axis stuff, and like just as much as stunts were, flipping became just as much of a passion, and filming it. So when you started parkour, you were still in New York?
Yeah, I was in upstate New York in college.
In college, okay. And so then...
So that was before I actually moved to New York City. And that was like a very interesting thing because coming from college, I was kind of just like exploring movement, watching videos, learning everything on my own. And I got to New York and I looked up, the New York City guys, and Urban Vanguard was one of the groups. And we went out and I did like a training with them, and they were so much about like strength building. We did like a warm up or conditioning that lasted like a half an hour. And like they're just doing like pistol squat lunges while balancing on a fence. And I remember I left that day and I couldn't walk for like 2 weeks, and I was like, screw this shit. I'm just going to go train alone some more. But it showed me there was like a lot of holes in my own training. And if I wanted to like do this stuff, I needed to build muscle and actually like have a body that can withstand the impact that I'm putting it through.
So did your YouTube as far as parkour go start at the same place like when you were in college?
No, so I didn't start YouTube till I was in New York. I was living in Astoria, Queens, just outside of Manhattan, and I started the page there and was kind of doing some challenges, just filming like tripod videos of me like running, doing a line, and then leaving frame and entering back in another frame. And so it was more just shooting my own stuff. And a lot of why I shot early on is kind of the same reason why I like to still shoot now, is like you learn so much more from watching yourself back, because a lot of what we think we're doing doesn't look like the way it actually is in real life. And then what I've learned also from that is because I've become so conscious and aware of what things look like while I do them now, because I've done it and trained it so long watching videos of myself and adjusting, that when someone else does something in front of me, not in a video, I can look at it and understand it better because now I'm seeing it as if I was doing it already in a video, so
Yeah.
it's a very interesting learning tool.
And then it's interesting. So when you started parkour and doing flips and stuff on camera, was it a positive thing for a lot of people who were viewing, or did you get like a lot of slack for it being dangerous or?
No, I don't. I think, well, I was already like putting out pretty big skate parts, like rollerblade parts, and like flipping and over banisters, and like, so people were already very accustomed to like my life. The people I know were already accustomed to me like living in an extreme version of life, right? But online, it was a slow build, so it was like anyone that kind of came on didn't really give me. I guess there was some people once I started going on roofs and doing kind of crazier high risk things like that. But so much of what I trained early on in parkour was like efficiency and movement and flow. And yeah, I don't know. I think it just grew and grew. But
Yeah, I was gonna say like I was doing a lot of the stunts, and that's what my videos would feature. So I had this very like negative kind of like
yeah,
view of what I was doing, and like people are concerned and family members are concerned like that I'm gonna get hurt. And then I mean that tied right in because it wasn't like parkour wasn't like a trained thing that I was doing. I was just kind of being reckless with my flips. It felt like I was kind of being I don't know, bad, like the way people perceived it, like. And so but I think what people don't realize is that I was going out and doing all these stupid things, but I was planning what I was going to do, and I was taking my camera and I was filming it and like trying to get the right angles and like make it look good for people that were going to watch later, and kind of going through the whole process, and then going home and editing it and putting like text on it, and like kind of going through the whole multimedia thing. And I think a lot of people don't realize how many skills you get from kind of like putting a project together, even if it's as simple as a YouTube video.
yeah,
And I'm sure you going out and doing all that filming, like you kind of touched upon, like it just didn't tighten your skills at shooting a sport or being an athlete. It tightened your skills, like you said, at promoting yourself and promoting a brand, but also editing and kind of the whole process behind it.
Yeah, for sure. And so many like personality, right? You talked about personality, my ability to talk to camera, my there's even like when you think about like filming as a whole, well, a lot of times you're handing a camera to someone who doesn't even really know how to film. So then like now I'm starting to really understand how to direct people on getting the shot that I want, or the vision that is in my head, because when I hold the camera, of course I can get the thing I'm envisioning, or most of the time I can get the thing I'm envisioning. But to have someone who has no idea how to film, I feel like I've developed that ability to direct and explain the shot and what needs to be captured so well now that it actually, like most people I can just that don't know how to film, I can hand them a camera and kind of get them to get that vision or as close to it as I can. So yeah, there's so many levels of skill that comes out of like doing what we did and what we continue to do, which is just like entertain, right? Like at the end of the day, I feel like I realized that was my sort of core. At my core was like I've always been an entertainer. Out of everything else, parkour, everything else that goes away, if my body shuts down or whatever ends up happening, like I just love to entertain. And it has its upsides and downsides, right? And dealing with the hate and the fame and all the different shit is cool, but it could also be like, but it's exciting. And every time we jump on a video, whether 10 people watch this thing or it goes viral and millions of people see it, it's like it doesn't really matter. It's just this engagement and ability to like, I don't know, get into it. You know what I mean?
There is something just amazing about creating content. I'm like, a lot of times people will say it like, you're an adrenaline junkie or all these things like that. But like, and to a large degree I am, but like, I'm not addicted to the stunts per se. I'm addicted to the process of entertaining, the writing, the setting up the shots, the filming, the overcoming the pain, of course, but then sharing it and getting it out there. Like, I live to do all of that. And so yeah, like you said, it doesn't really. I feel like it doesn't matter if it's 10 people or a million people. It's kind of just like, I feel it's what we were meant to do. I think maybe if we were back in like the old Western days, we'd be the people like going from town to town, like selling things or putting on a performance or a circus or something like that.
Absolutely.
It's just like what, it's what we were meant to do. So we have another pretty cool connection here. And when I, through MySpace, I ended up getting a TV show with MTV in 2009, I think. It was either 2009 or 2010. And I ended up getting, so the show was called Numbnuts, and it was basically a Fear Factor Jackass edition that was slated for MTV. And I went out and did the show with Victor Lopez. So my buddy Crazy Mike and Victor Lopez and myself were the Numbnuts, and we essentially were MTV's idiots that they would take kind of these homegrown stunts that people did that went viral, and they would bring in these clips, and they would also bring the person along with them, and they would build these gigantic stunts, and they would have to pick one of us to then compete against a giant version of their stunt to try to win money. And so Victor Lopez at the time was in the middle of starting Tempest, or was in Tempest as one of the founders. And then so in our downtime on set, I was out in LA for about 3 or 4 months. He would sit there and he would tell me about his plans to open the first Tempest Free Running Academy. So like he would like, it was like, get it, like, he would show me things and show me visuals and what they were thinking, but like he would go into like, nah, man, we're not going to do it like anybody else. We're going to do it like professional. Like we're going to go to the level, because if we're putting something out there professional, if we don't put out something professional, nobody's going to take us serious. We can't just like put out something that and then let it grow. We're going to put out something at a level, and we're gonna pay our athletes, and we're gonna treat it like it's an actual sport that it is. And he was just so passionate about it. And then fast forward, I think a few years later, then I hop on back out to a plane to do my first season of American Ninja Warrior, and by that time the gym was freshly opened, and a new video just went on up on break and got millions of views, and on YouTube millions of views of like just kind of like the gym opening, so I kind of wanted to see what your path was to kind of getting out to California and joining up with Tempest.
No, that's so funny. Yeah, I know so much of like your story through either Victor or just like being a fan from back in the day. So like, it's funny just to be here connecting it all. But my personal journey with getting, I guess, becoming a co-owner of Tempest started from just being a parkour athlete in New York that was really passionate, right? And at some point I found it years ago, but I probably could still go find it. At some point while I was starting YouTube, I reached out to Paul Darnell, who was one of the 4 founders. I knew of Tempest because the same thing. Their videos started popping off. They were shot in probably the most professional looking manner with like glide cams and movement and edits, and they're doing like high quality skit style things where they're in costumes and shooting 70s style parkour, and it was just like all this interesting stuff was coming out of them. So it was hard not to know them, especially being an athlete from the USA. So my goal and dream as an entertainer was to start working in the things that I love. It's always been, how do I make money from the things I love? Whether it was, rollerblading, where I became a camp counselor for 6 years, the head camp counselor at a skate park, and like jumping on a pogo stick, getting paid for that to do these demos and like all this random stuff I've always figured out ways to make money from. So when parkour grew into like a very serious passion, it was like, all right, I need to take this serious. And I started to book work, and I booked my first job in Rochester, New York, and they flew me up to there to shoot a kind of commercial slash short film for Eastman Kodak Company. Um, and that really opened up like my eyes to like, oh, this isn't just a dream. This is actually a goal. And like, I could do this. There's opportunity here. I just need to like dig deeper to find it. And the more I dug, the more I would started seeing Tempest working in movies. And like, you know, Paul Darnell is doubling what's his name from Twilight, and like they're doing Transformers, and all of a sudden it's like, wow, these guys are like literally living my dream that as a kid I said I wanted to be a stuntman, but I never really thought that was a reality. I never thought I would even get out of Long Island. I used to look at the clouds and think they were mountains because I was like, that's cool, travel one day. Fast forward, now I'm in New York and I'm seeing Tempest, and I'm starting to work in the industry a little bit. And I'm like, started doing background work. So I understood how filmmaking, how making movies and TV actually looks in real life. Then I reached out to Paul Darnell on one of his YouTube videos, and I was like, in a comment, I was like, hey man, I really would love to do what you're doing, and congratulations on your stunt, whatever I said. And he never replied back, of course, but I'll speed it up. Long story short, I end up moving out to LA. I hear that they're opening a gym, right? I know that everybody knows that this is happening. It's literally, the parkour community is kind of small, so there's still discussion happening everywhere. So New York is like, yo, what the heck's the Tempest gym gonna look like? So I know now. I kept caught wind that they were opening the doors, like were open 2 weeks early. So open gym, you could go and play. Like they're just like, yeah, come on by before the official grand opening. And in my marketing, like I can use this moment to, one, show everyone in New York what the gym looks like, but two, make like a point, right? To like prove a point to these guys that like, yo, I'm not just like some random parkour athlete. Like I'm good, and I'm developing skills, and I'm doing things that people aren't doing yet. And so I went in there, I think like 2 days in a row, and just shot this video and released it before they released the Tempest Free Running Academy like gym video that went super viral. And to be honest with you, I did it as a way to be like, I want to coach here, and it ended up pissing them off because I released my video before they did, right? So now they're mad because I'm catching all these views, and my video was doing really well. I mean, at this point, I think it's got like whatever, 500,000 or 750,000 views. Well, theirs went 5-6 million views like the day it dropped or the next 20 days that it was out. So like back then, that was like super viral. They beat out all of Coca-Cola's marketing money and advertising, and like all of a sudden we're like, they're being written up, and everyone wants to go like check out the gym. So ended up getting a job. I worked through that dilemma, right? Because thank God their video did well, and they didn't have to really think about what I did, and as nothing but extra marketing. But I ended up getting a job there, and my goal became like, I want to be on Team Tempest. I know they have these core members. I don't just want to be a coach. I want to be on the team. So I did anything. I was holding lights, showing up for shoots that they were doing, and just kind of standing in the background. And the more you were around, the more you partied, the more you hung out at the Tempest house, the more you became family, and that family transitioned into team. So that's kind of how it happened. And then kept going, was on the team, traveled the world, did Red Bull, made a couple films. And now through all of the marketing and pushing I was doing to show love to Tempest, and not just like Jesse Laflair and trying to sell my own shirts, but to really like bring up the brand with me, they rewarded me with a small percentage of the company. And I've also invested in the newest gym out in Dallas. So
that's amazing. And it's so cool. And I actually, right before the gym opened up in Dallas, I actually was talking to Victor, and like I was basically pitching him making a gym here in Pennsylvania. My big pitch was Hershey, Pennsylvania, right by like the Hershey chocolate factory and stuff.
Yeah.
But that was like right around the time that I actually so there's a few times in my life that I had to stop doing stunts, and one of the times was when me and my kid's mom broke up, and I'm kind of going through custody, and I didn't want to film anything crazy. I didn't want to mess with that. My kids are my life. They're like I do stunts I started doing stunts so that I could, one, be myself, but like go and do stuff and film stuff and make money, but still be able to be a stay-at-home dad and take care of my daughter at the time. I just had one. I have two now. But so I stopped doing stunts, and I got a job offer to start teaching at a gymnastics gym, and that's when I started doing and teaching parkour, basically part time. But what I realized when I was doing that was that I had the same kind of passion that I had for stunts or doing flips myself that I had for teaching the next generation of kids. So when some kid would, in a matter of like a class or two, I teach a kid like a backflip, and I would see him, fist pumping and getting all excited. I was like, oh man, this is like something that I could do like kind of the rest of my life. So fast forward, a lot kind of I got injured, and a lot has happened from now. Literally 2 weeks before the COVID hit, I opened up my own gym in my hometown, and so it was kind of a very long process of that kind of coming around to trying to make that dream become a reality. But Tempest and talking to Victor and seeing what he did and was a huge inspiration. And like, again, it's like when somebody takes like a dream like that and actually makes it a reality. I mean, that's so inspirational to
especially when you're able to witness it, right? Like that's been the big thing, whether it's yourself doing it, right? Which I feel like any one of these, I was going to say this earlier when we were talking about like the entertainers in us, like realistically everything we do is its own like little bit of like magic, right? We're like envisioning something, and that vision then grows to be this full version of it, and then all of a sudden we're right back to this, and we're like, okay, now all of those things that I envisioned happen, and that goes from actually doing the thing to filming the thing to editing the thing to promoting the thing to like being here. But I think even more amazing sometimes is watching someone else do something, especially if you're detached from it and you just go like, yeah, you're gonna open like a badass gym and try to make it like one of the best gyms in the world and make it look as professional as possible. Cool. And then a month later you're in the gym and you're like, oh,
you actually did that. And I think it doesn't, and I think to make a point to like anybody that's watching, like it doesn't have to be like this cool Hollywood type dream thing.
No,
it's I had a buddy that I used to do stunts with, and then he now owns his own auto detail business. And I think when you put yourself out there and you have a dream and you follow it and you put the work in, and then you all of a sudden start reaping the benefits. I mean, there's just nothing better than that, I think, in life. And I think when as like, well, at least from a professional standpoint. So anytime I see somebody putting themselves out there, the hardest part is just taking that first step and actually going for it, because most people won't go for their dreams. And I would just encourage anybody to at least realistically try at what they think they're meant to be doing, and don't just sit there and kind of use our examples. We didn't, this stuff, just listening to our conversation, this stuff didn't happen overnight. We didn't just like put up a video and get lucky, and then we're thrown into owning a gym or being on TV and having followers and stuff like that. We really like listened and learned, and then tried and failed and tried and tried again. So no, I mean, just to jump in on what you said, like the hardest part is taking the first step. But I think like the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like talking to other people and like digging into my own like soul work, I'm realizing that it's not even that difficult. The difficulty isn't taking the first step. The difficulty is in recognizing that the first step is actually very simple. And that's the hardest thing for us to admit to ourselves, is like, as long as we like can comprehend what progression is and the idea of slowly building something and learning from our mistakes, then realistically, like the hardest thing is to admit that we haven't taken that very easy first step yet.
and we've just sat here on an idea of a thing that we've wanted to do. And sometimes that first step is literally just Googling your thing, or like trying to create whatever it is you want to create in a very minimal way. And failing. Like the other side of that is like so much of what progression is failure. And if you're afraid to fail, then you're really never going to succeed. And we see that in movement, right? We see people like Pasha who like studied how to fall in creative ways and now is like capable of like the most incredible things because falling isn't a fear, right? And that's how we eliminate fear. Fear altogether is really just like the lack of understanding. So the more we understand the things we want to do, or the things that will go wrong if things don't work out, the less fear we'll have to actually try to do those things.
Yeah, and I like what you said earlier about kind of you had these dreams of kind of like being a stuntman and being an entertainer, but in a similar way, I did too. Like I used to watch like Saturday Night Live and be like, oh, I want to be on the cast of Saturday Night Live and I want to do this and that. But I never like had I never like thought about like how do I actually do that?
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
you know now how I dissect things, I would be like, oh, well, I got to start doing like acting classes and I got to do like plays and I got to do drama. Like I would have went about it a different way. But it's so funny that like the way that we like followed our passion, which with you in action sports and then parkour and then me in stunts, like we learned so much about the process of doing that stuff. Then we were able to get to those goals that we wanted to get to, maybe like not even on purpose, but just like we kind of figured, it's because we figured out the process of like, and we unlocked the ability to say like, oh wait, if I want to do something and there's like a realistic, like here's a realistic possibility that I can do this, then why the hell not?
Yeah.
Like you stop doubting yourself in a sense. Like, well, I'll just be like, well, that person did it, so why? I used to go, for example, I used to say like, oh well, why would I be the one to like open up a parkour gym? You know, I do all these crazy things. Why would like kids come and learn from me? And then at the end of the day, it was like, well, why wouldn't I? I've been flipping my whole life. I know people in the industry. I know people that have been successful. I can teach. Why the hell wouldn't I open up a gym?
Yeah.
You kind of attack those things that maybe you never thought that you'd want to go after before. But when you know how, and there's a you have to be willing to fail at it too. And I think that's secondly, or maybe the hardest part actually is failing and then being like, okay, well that doesn't mean it's over, and then you keep trying.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, because failing sometimes isn't as scary as it seems. I think that's the big thing is like, yes, failing if you're doing some gnarly big move, but all the little failures that led up to that, tripping over this ledge or doing that or over rotating a little bit of a backflip or whatever it is that might have like led you to it movement wise, or business wise, you're like, I get it and I learned, I move on.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you would have messaged Paul and he didn't get back to you and you were like, well, that was my shot.
Yeah.
I failed.
Missed out.
Then you never would have made it. You would have just stopped there and you know, but so when you you moved out to LA and then kind of like grinded your way into to getting noticed by Tempest. Now you were doing TV work kind of at the same time as that.
So I mean, I continued to. So I was doing acting classes in New York. I started doing that just to like be able to be comfortable if I ever got asked to do anything. And then I got into LA, I took acting classes and was obviously training. I think I was teaching parkour at 3 different gyms at the time, while doing background work and searching every day. You come home and you search the casting websites and sign up for all these pages that show you non-union work or union work. And so then it became like, all right, well, how do you creatively get yourself into the system, whether that was the stunt industry or that was acting? And like for me, it's always been one thing. It's attacking the Hollywood and trying to just get myself into the door. And I I did a lot of weird creative things. I did tons of things that didn't work, like making parkour stunt reels and like getting them printed, instead of doing stickers that were, one, way more expensive, but two, also damaging to property. I got QR codes printed on Post-its, which were like super cheap. I can get like 1,000 Post-its for like $5, and they expect people to print like their logo like this big on it, but there's no limit on it. So I printed the whole thing as like, there's no room to write anything because it's just a QR code. And I went and plastered those all over LA. I don't even know if that got me one extra view. Like, there was just like that type of stuff that I was just constantly like trying new things, trying to market myself. And it continued. It started to pay off, right? I booked an audition. I went in there with big personality, and I'm already comfortable with camera work, and I know what they want. I think about what people's perspectives are, and their job is to like find the right person for this job, right? A lot of people go into auditions being like, they're judging me. No, they want you to be the guy. Like 100%, they want you to walk in there and then be like, oh man, that guy killed it. I'm gonna put a star next to that one and send it to the director of this project. You know what I mean? So it's all about perspective. Are people rooting for you or rooting against you? And I think as long as you're able to root for yourself and like get creative about how you're approaching any situation, right? There's the front door or the back door, but there's actually a third door. There's always a third way in, whether it's the window or the whatever you need to do. So the more you're looking for that third door and approaching any situation in a way that other people aren't, there's going to be a lot less resistance on you getting into that thing. And I think I did that a lot to get into Hollywood. And even me as a stuntman now, I have like imposter syndrome because I feel like, can I call myself a stuntman? I'm really a parkour guy that got a bunch of, stuntish roles, which then led to really big stunt roles, which now is leading to jobs that has nothing to do with parkour. And there's like, it's fun for me, but it's also just like, part of me is still like not sure what worked and what didn't, but it doesn't really matter because I'm here like living and continuing to grind. I'm already looking for how do I do the next bigger thing? How do I get the starring role, and not just be the stunt guy anymore.
Yeah, there's two things that I really took from that, and I think about like what I love about parkour so much, and now teaching it kind of from like a, I guess kind of from like a business sense to people, is that like it's parkour is like fundamentally, like, I think the best, like most basic form of movement. So there's that about it, but there's and I think there's so much growth to do individually doing parkour and kind of conquering your fear and like, calculating and figuring out what your body can do and how you jump over something and you can't do it and you practice and all that stuff. So like mentally and physically, but like what I love about it, based off of like your journey, is that it's not just like some hobby that you can do it as a hobby. And it can be that like when I used to skateboard and I would go out and skateboard and it was a blast, and there's some of the best memories I ever had. But with parkour, I just love how there's opportunities there to make it a career, and that you can go and you can train, and then you can head off and potentially do a stunt for a TV commercial or a TV show or a movie. And so seeing, man, you just have gotten to do that kind of like at a dream level, which is so exciting. Seeing the things and seeing like, man, like you grow up and you're playing video games, and now you're in a video game doing, the mocap work for these games, really just shows, there's just no limit, to the sport to a certain degree. It's just such a perfect balance of motion. Does it? I mean, where
I feel like it goes back to like if there's a will, there's a way, and it doesn't have to just be about parkour, but like you can make a living doing anything you love. And I mean, that might be a really, really broad statement, but I feel like in my understanding of this world, you could figure something out.
Yeah. So just like you were saying, there's these moments, I'm sure, that you're in it. So you're shooting mocap for like a game like Drake's Uncharted, or you're doing your stunt double work for X-Men and Nightcrawler, is it a mix of feeling like, man, how did I even get here, but then also feeling like, man, you went through the process to get there, like you fought for this and you kind of earned it at the same way.
No, I mean, the answer is no. Every time I'm on set, like literally every time, like without a doubt, every new project I'm working on, there's a moment of like looking around and just being like, how the hell did I get here? Like, how did this work? And it doesn't get old. Like it's like I'm getting chills, like literally got chills. Like it's exciting. It's just like, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. Cause like, yeah, I could probably sit down and try to like map out how it worked, but it just comes down to like continuing to try and move forward. Like it's so much less about like figuring out what did work, and it's more about like what's going to work next, and like how do I continue to live this life. And it's not just like how do I get a bigger stunt job, it's like what do I want to do now. I'm in my garage, but it's my art studio surrounded by probably like, I'll just whip this thing around real quick, surrounded just by like all of these paintings all around us. And it's like, I don't know, is art next, or is that just like the passion thing that I'm just able to go do outside of the other things that became work, you know?
Yeah. Well, I could say my favorite, or not my favorite, but it's something I really noticed when we met each other and then we started filming on Ultimate Tag was, and this is less of a question, just more like of a statement, is that a lot of times I've done shows and you meet like the talent and you meet these Hollywood people and you can just tell that they're Hollywood. And I think the really cool thing about you is I can feel kind of like the appreciation for where you came from. Like, and so I didn't feel like, oh man, this guy necessarily, like, there's a confidence there and there, you feel the reason that you're there, but like, I never felt like you're like, oh, like I'm the shit and that's why I'm here. Like there's always like some, like very balanced in how you handle it, handle yourself.
Yeah.
That you're genuinely excited. It seemed like you did work that you're genuinely excited about doing. And, I
think that's interesting because I think like a lot of people in person have this very like same kind of reaction. We're like, oh, he's like super humble and just excited person. And a lot of people online, especially, I think it comes from probably this like self-promotional thing, and then this entertainer that I turn on, or this marketer that I turn on to like talk about my accolades and put on this voice that allows you to like understand what I'm saying properly. But a lot of people mistake that for cockiness, and I've been spending a lot of time thinking about why a lot of people think I'm like this cocky guy, and I think it's because I genuinely like love myself. Like that sounds like the cockiest thing you could possibly say, but like I actually am so like sort of proud to know where I came from, to know the work that I did, to know that I've like really tried to get to where I am, and then, like you said, when we're there, I'm here right now and just like humble and like excited and like I don't feel like I deserve anything, but I'm excited that I am in that situation, But Ultimate Tag, I'm playing Laflair, who's like this parkour legend, and like, of course that's going to come through where all of a sudden the character of like, oh, I'm the best. I don't even know how my character is going to be, if it is really a character or if I was able to stay humble, because it was a really difficult challenge for me because I wanted to like bring this energy of like humbleness to TV, but in a show that grand where they were surrounded by Horse and the Banshee and all these people who are just like full on like characters and like playing in, and you're like, but can I change the dynamic of national television by not going there and being the one or singular voice that seems to be, just I don't know, excited.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
I think I think the difference is like there's different levels, as everybody's has a different level of themselves as a human. So like I always say, like obviously I'm this like crazy stunt guy, like Daredevil, King of the Nutshots, all that. But like, but then I have my normal personality, which is really chill and quiet and just taking everything in. But that doesn't,
dad energy.
yeah, but that doesn't mean that the horse is necessarily like an act or fake.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like it's like a different level. It's like everything I'm holding inside, and it's like when
It's a freedom. Yeah, it's like a freedom, like to turn the knob up in some spots and turn the knob down in other spots.
and then flip out. And then if you think about it, when people, like when you're talking about professional athletes that are playing basketball or football, they're talking shit and they're going crazy,
Yeah.
and they're like,
Yeah.
you know, and they're saying things that they wouldn't say. But
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's not. It's just who they are when they're being competitive and when their juices are flowing. And I think so. I think when it comes to Ultimate Tag is, yeah, we're making a TV show and we're making entertainment, but like we're out there and our blood's up and our job is to go chase people and be flashy.
make it entertaining,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it just because on camera we maybe portray ourselves differently doesn't mean it's wrong or fake or, you know, anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, what's interesting is like you talk about talking shit to people. Is like, I actually like have a rule. Like, I don't talk shit. Like if I'm playing beer pong or any other game ever, I won't, because I feel like karma always kicks me in the butt. And so far, if you guys are watching this, the show has come out, but it still hasn't come out while we're recording this right now. And that is because things are slowly rolling out. But the only thing I've actually seen of myself, and we shot this over a year ago, was that clip of popping tags, and it's me talking shit the entire time. And I'm like, I don't even remember doing that, but I know that's what they, during our audition, they kept drilling us like, yeah, we want to hear you talk, we want to hear you talk, we want to hear you talk. So I guess the thing that needed to come out of my mouth was just reacting to what I'm seeing in other people's energy. And I assume that guy probably said some really either cocky or arrogant, like, I got this, he's nothing. And I'm sure that was me, like, kind of playing with him now, and allowing sort of my skills to talk as loud as apparently my mouth was.
Yeah.
But we'll see. So like, I'm actually like genuinely nervous about like how I'm going to be portrayed. And I've always been self-conscious about how people interpret me. And I think it stems from like this really, like I grew up with a speech impediment. So I always felt like, and this is something I'm realizing now later in life, that like maybe I have this thing where I don't like to be misunderstood. So even in a show setting, or like, you know, I made this video a really, really long time ago on YouTube called Zombie Parkour. And in the scene, I'm playing this actor, this character, and the character, they had written this whole thing where the character smokes a cigarette and puts it out. And then later in the scene, he ends up taking another drag. And it was this whole scene he did with his brother that got cut. But at some point in this film that's on my YouTube, I take a smoke of this cigarette as this character, and people were like, I'm unsubscribe, I can't believe you smoke, da, da, da. And it was like the disconnect of me playing someone in a movie that smoked versus me who does not smoke cigarettes is like, it's a hard thing for people to comprehend. And I think the more that I can kind of accept that and or play into it, right? Like at home, like you're saying, like there's this part of you that apparently does like to talk shit because you're out there doing it.
Yeah.
So why not, when watching this with the fans, why not when they're reacting to what they're seeing, you just play into that character and allow that to be that. When I'm home with my son and my wife, I can be the person I want to be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have to learn how to do that, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, it's funny how we can be so influenced by other people. The reason that I'm so, and it's so hard for people I think to understand, but in real life I'm actually almost just like shy and quiet, is because when I remember in elementary school that like I'd be out at recess and I would do like a flip, or we'd be at a birthday party and I'd do a flip off the diving board, or a flyaway off the bars, and everybody would be like, a bunch of people, it would draw like a big crowd and everybody would be so excited. But then all of a sudden a handful of people would be like, yo, you're a show off. And like,
yeah.
I hated that negative attention so much, like that, it made me like, extremely quiet. I feel like that's the reason though, after like just dissecting it years later. And it took me years upon years to realize that I was okay with being this character on film, but then like afterwards I still went back to being like this shy person.
Yeah.
And kind of like that's why when and you may have noticed it, like when we filmed Tag even, and this is me as you know, a 32-year-old 33-year-old, like I had to like learn everybody first and like kind of like
Yeah.
read the room and like take things in before I was able to actually start opening up a little bit more and starting to talk to people and stuff. But there's something about the camera and when the red light comes on that like that's what I'm supposed to be doing, and nobody can be judging me for being crazy. Like or worst case scenario, I'm just looking like an idiot, which is what I'm supposed to be doing. So like so somebody can't like necessarily like I'm not gonna feel bad about somebody picking me apart when like I'm supposed to be picked apart. But it took a really long time for me then to transition that back into real life where I do feel like more in my skin and comfortable right now, or for the last like 5 or 6 years as a person, and more confident going in and kind of doing things like Ultimate Tag. It was very interesting getting an audition for Ultimate Tag, and you know, I went downstairs in the basement that I'm in right now, and to get on a Skype call with Fox, and I got in my underwear and I get on the call and I start screaming and I'm saying like I'm the king of the nut shot and all this stuff, and the lady's like she's like, well, this is like a family show, so I don't know if all this is gonna fly. And I kind of just had to like be like, oh, like in back in my head I'm like, oh crap, like you know, did I just like ruin my opportunity?
Yeah.
But then also realizing like it's not just getting kicked in the nuts, and it's not just like that side of me necessarily that like put me where I am today. And I wanted to like, and so getting a TV show, I think of this is so funny all the time. I have all these like footage of me on TV, like America's Got Talent and American Ninja Warrior, but I'm either in my underwear or I'm getting kicked in the nuts. And I don't have anything I can show my kid. Like what my girls like watching my videos, but like when I go to like teach my classes and stuff, I can't be like, you know, my dad's a teacher. He can't like share any of my videos, like because it's all just insane. So it was really cool for me to be able to be like, not only have something like that, but then also be like, I'm more than just like a nutshot guy. That I can be like this character and I can play a role and you know, and do it on a prime time level, I guess. So you know, I'm excited. I'm excited for everybody to see that. Now, so we first met each other auditioning for this show, like I said, but we were in the middle of a cold warehouse in Los Angeles.
It was raining too. Yeah, didn't it rain that day or the second time? I don't know. It was it was pretty weird.
I keep telling people when I start explaining the show is like at least me personally felt like we were having so much fun playing tag, basically on these little B-roll cameras, like auditioning for this show. So I try to explain like, no, like without even anybody watching on like in a warehouse with like a half-built set, like this is like extremely fun, like show that we're a part of.
Yeah, I mean, I just think back every time we would be not actually out on the course and our other teammates were out there, we couldn't help but watch. We're all like gathered around the TV and they're trying to like corral us to do this or go there, and like we're like wait, we're gonna watch this race. Like we're like all so invested in how exciting it is to even watch this thing, let alone be there and doing it, right? Like I think that's a really valid point. Was I remember how much fun it was to just like go out and play in and like you're talking about stripped down setting. We're talking plain wood. There was no like paint. There's nothing
no
like nothing.
Costumes,
it was
costumes,
nothing.
Just like these
Yeah,
people
just
thrown
like
into this course, kind of
yeah.
sketchy, like
Yeah, so, yeah, definitely sketchy moments, and it was cool because they also listened to us a lot, and they took our advice and obstacle stuff, and was asking questions about does this work, does that work. They would change the rules, which was really fun because we were like learning and developing the show as we were like kind of testing out for it, and I don't know, yeah, it was pretty damn
now when you
exciting.
go into an audition like that, like do you have a game plan? Do you have like an idea of like what you're trying to sell, or like how you're going to
Yeah,
like attack? Yeah.
it's like the levels of the into any audition, like I am the parkour guy here. Like I'm the guy, right? And like
Yeah.
especially in commercial auditions, they want to hear your biggest accolades like immediately. So in television, especially like that reality TV style shows, competition shows, they want someone who like is either very special or has a very special story. And I feel like my story is just how I've gotten to where I am. So what I sell is like the fact that I've done so many things that other people haven't been able to achieve. And either whatever, it doesn't really matter how I got here. It's just like, hey, I'm the first professional parkour and freerunning athlete with his own pro signature model shoe and the stunt double for Nightcrawler in the last two X-Men films, and that's how I start off auditions. And people are like, oh shit, this guy's working. What do you do? What was it? What,
Yeah.
and that's kind of how I come into the room. But for this audition specifically, it was very interesting because it wasn't like we already did that at home. We did the talk and tell me about yourself, tell me about this and that. And the audition for the show was like, all right, get on in there and play some tag, talk some shit, and let's see how entertaining you can be. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh wait, I don't know if I'm this person. Like I'm good at parkour. I can go try to grab a tag, but like, how do I turn on a character that they want to see, through the lens? And that was something that slowly developed. And like I said, was a challenge for me to try to like give them what they wanted while remaining who I am and what my brand is by staying. Because I think by limiting myself under like keeping my name as Laflair, which again, we talked about creative marketing, by being Laflair for Ultimate Tag, I'm going to help sell my pro model shoe. I'm going to help bring people to my social media pages. And like, for some of these other people who did complete character names that had nothing to do with anything they've ever accomplished or have online, they now have to build that and point their fingers back to themselves. And but they're also granted the freedom to literally create a character
Yeah.
and let that character like completely develop and not block it in any way. So I felt myself like always questioning the character in which I was portraying, because at the end of the day, it's kind of my name on the line. So that was like a weird thing.
Yeah, I felt lucky enough too to come in as Horse, which is really who I feel like I am.
Yeah.
And not have to like change a character. I was really nervous. Like I actually thought to myself before I went out, like if they had me try to change my name, like would I do this? And I probably would have ultimately, because just money wise and everything, that goes into it. It's like, okay, I probably would have, but like, I really didn't want to cross that bridge. I like particularly when the yelling and the screaming and kind of the intensity that I bring that comes really easy to me. So that like that part of the like audition, like I knew, and like I could, and I love it. I love it so much. And, because my favorite part of it is like, as soon as I turn it on, I can feel the level of like the room turn up and everybody's eyes and how people are reacting, and I just like feed off that energy.
That's awesome.
What I also like, and it goes back to the kind of the way that we have kind of shot things our own and did these own creative journeys, is like as soon as we got there and we started playing, I'm like, I started dissecting, okay, well, we're going to be on a team. We're auditioning for a team. So I would start high-fiving everybody and cheering people. Like, so in my mind, it was more than just like, all right, well, I got to just show off my character. It was like, I got to show them that I can be a part of what they're kind of like trying to portray here. And I think that's like sometimes like I don't even know how to put it. it's weird to me that like I'm in the middle of screaming and yelling and freaking out, and it's who I am, and I love every second of it. But I'm literally thinking in my head at the same time, all right, well, the camera's over there. Once I'm done here, I got to say this to this person, and I got to like high five, and I got to like, it's like it's more than it's like the whole process of everything. And I felt really kind of like sculpted as a kind of like an entertainer to be in that position so I don't know if that helped my audition, but I feel like I just felt like everything was clicking.
No, I think absolutely it helped. And I think like it's like a lot of this becomes like second nature for us, right? Like I think a lot of like our understanding of knowing what lens they're on and how wide that shot is, and like being able to like, when a camera's pointed at me and I know what lens is on it, I know how much room I have in the frame, right? But that's become so like subconscious that like I don't even I wasn't even aware that I should talk about it. But like, yeah, you're talking about the audition process, and you're like, yes, like I knew where the cameras were. I knew to point to the camera guy. Like I was in the, like, as much as I was being Jesse and doing the thing and trying to talk more shit than I normally do, all the subconscious things that we've learned from creating content over freaking years and years and years of doing it has allowed us to like really understand how production goes. And while filming the show, I think that allowed us to give them a better show, to let them, if I celebrate or something goes weird, or like I know cameras are still rolling, this thing's not live, so I can just do it again and keep that energy, instead of like being like, man, I can't believe I fell there, or like, like there's so much that our experience has allowed us to make us better entertainers and better employees, right? Because at the end of the day, we're hired by this company to put on a show. So I think about that a lot in like stunts and things like that, where, like I said, sometimes I feel like an imposter showing up on set because I'm like, oh, I'm not really a guy that does like fight stuff. And, it took me a long time to recognize, like, one, I don't really have a passion for doing fight scenes. So what then happens is if someone tries to hire me to be the fight guy, I'm like, hey, just so you know, there's like other people who train like way harder and like go do fight stuff, and I'm not really a fight guy. And 9 times out of 10 they'll go, well, it's like 1 or 2 beats, I'll make sure that you do it right. And now I'm not going in there nervous. I don't know how to do this fight beat, and like if I mess it up, oh shit, now everyone's gonna know that Jesse is a liar, and like, you know what I mean? So now you have this professional coordinator being like, all right, just so you know, when you throw it, do this, extend through there, and da-da-da-da-da. But there's still a part of me that feels like that, am I a professional stuntman? Who am I? But you make a valid point in like talking about how much knowledge we have of like the situation and space around us, that most people who are just getting into it to either just be an actor or just do their style of stunts, right? Even coming in as a fight guy, like if you're not out there making your own fight edits and filming it and editing it, then you don't know how to fight on camera, because there's way more to it than just throwing a punch or reacting or doing some sort of aerial trick, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so I don't want to get into too much on the actual show because they really don't want us to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really like, every time I hear that, I go, I don't remember a single thing. Like there's so much I remember from like back, like behind the scenes. Yeah. But I literally like, I don't know if I go black but it was so much going on, and like it was just so intense. Like I don't know who I tagged or who I didn't tag or what the stories were.
No idea.
No,
I literally agree. I have no idea. And I think maybe it is because of that. We're like in the flow state, but our brain is shutting down things that we don't necessarily need in front of us, which probably is the characters and things that we're doing or saying. And the awareness that we have is in the scene of how we need to help shoot the thing and be the guy. So I think what happens even in parkour, right? When something goes wrong, you're just like, you save yourself and you're like, I don't know what just happened, but it worked. And then you watch the video back and you're like, yeah, I don't know how I did that. Like, I don't know how I responded, because your brain, I mean, flow state is really like a limiting of things. It shuts down like sense of time and color and whatever, and just like allows you to like have the focus where the focus needs to be. So when we talk about ultimate tag, which is literally about like movement, like chasing people through hard obstacles, of course we need to be like in the flow state. We need to be like very aware of not just like what we're doing, what we're saying. We need to be aware of physically what we're doing and how we have to protect ourselves as we're going along to try to grab a flashing tag. It's
Yeah.
wild.
And just to touch on it a little bit, it is a really extreme fun show. Like it's exciting, but I think what I really didn't expect, because I remember getting the initial phone call about the show and like that this playing tag was a possibility, and I was like, oh, I was born for this. I was born for this show. But what I never anticipated was the kind of the group that we formed as professional taggers on this show. That like I just never dreamed of, and that was one of the great parts about being on the show is not only I felt like the people that were in charge as far as like, Ryan and Peter and the people that were in charge of the games, and then our like stunt help, which ended up joining our cast, that everybody was just so stoked and so cool. And then specifically us as a group of professional taggers just got so close to the point where we shot this TV show a year ago, and we all still talk. We all are still engaged and like enjoy each other's.
No, it's kind of wild. Yeah, for such a big production, it feels like a pretty small family. Like I've never been a part of a show like this, and maybe because it feels like I've done major films that have lasted 4 or 5 months of filming, and it still feels like this is one of the tightest groups of people I've ever been in a project with. So I think that's going to come out. I think that energy, that excitement we have together is definitely going to be visible on the show. And I think, if America loves us as much as we do and we start another season, I think it's going to be wild as hell to see the energy in season 2.
Dude, that's it. I'm a little nervous. I mean, I really just hope that this COVID thing doesn't affect, the future of this show. Because I feel like it's just so much amazing energy. But then at the same time, I look at what we did, and I just know that if we get a chance to come back again, it's going to be that much better. And I'm really rooting for it. And I think for the first time in my career, this was like for me, I've had like a lot of heartbreaks kind of in the industry, and I've done a lot of shows, and when I've been successful, I've had some injuries that kind of put me back and enabled me to kind of like not hustle or not take advantage of some exposure. And literally the backflip that I did when we were rehearsing the show in that one side warehouse was the first backflip I did in about 2.5 years, because I had surgery about a year and a half, or a year and a half, a year and a quarter before that. And so like at this point, this a little bit felt like, okay, this is my last one. Maybe not. I don't want to say my last big opportunity, but it felt like, all right, well, I'm gonna try to open this gym, and if I don't get another TV gig, okay, like I made my mark, and I can move on if I need to, and it kind of re-excited me, and now I'm all in on like keeping the dream alive. But what's really cool is kind of knowing that maybe it could be my last dance, I guess you could say, with the Michael Jordan documentary airing right now, is seeing some of these people that have never gone through a major TV show, and the people on our team like Tavon, and just like so excited to see everybody that kind of like we made a family out of, how it's gonna like affect them, and like really kind of like, what is this going to do for everybody? And really it was really cool to see like you and Beach Boy giving everybody advice for social media, and Austin, and like everybody just kind of like teaming up, and not just on the show, but like in life. And like I'm just excited. I just feel like everybody's so close that even if we didn't go to season 2. This isn't the last time everybody's going to work together, and it's not the last time we're going to see each other. And I think that's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Completely agree.
Yeah. So a good segue would be that I'm not going to keep you too much longer because my kids are upstairs and they need me to make dinner. So I wanted to talk a little bit about we had the pleasure of before you even found out that you were going to have a child, we were sitting at a chicken sandwich bar and grill, and you kind of were like discussing how that you're pretty sure it might be coming, and that a child was on the way, and we actually like sat there and we discussed, which I felt like I had some good just good insight on, because I've been a dad since I was 21 years old, and I was really excited then to hear, like, while we were filming, that you found out that you were going to have a child, and then now you're a dad, and you joined the club. And so I want to kind of like touch base on that, and kind of first of all, how has that been so far?
It's been actually amazing. We had a hell of a birth, 44 hours, tried to do a home birth, had to transfer to the hospital. So like that whole process was quite like crazy, and the energy in that was like, whoa. But since then it's been like, everything has been, the sad truth is like, it has given me a really beautiful excuse to stay home and like watch my son grow. He's 5.5 months old right now. And I feel like every day I'm seeing these new milestones, these new developments, and it's pretty wild, because I feel like you'd hear so many people say this, like, oh, my son's very advanced, but like he physically is like, I'm almost certain he's going to break the world record and walk before he's 6 months. Like he like literally is like been doing all these physical feats. And like the real truth was, when I found out I was having a kid, and I tell people, oh, it's going to be a boy, they're like, oh, he's going to be amazing at parkour. He's going to be the best parkour athlete ever. And I have this like reaction to like people saying that I was like, well, man, let him decide whatever he's going to do. Like, I don't want to have an influence on him to want to do parkour. Like, if that's something he develops on his own, then yeah. But like, I have this just like deep heart for like wanting him to be whoever he is going to be. And for whatever reason, he's just been doing something like incredible, like physical feats. And the nurses and doctors that we're going to see, they're like, he should be about, in another 2 months, he should be able to lift up his head. And he's like sitting there with his head up. Like, we're like, he's doing it right now, right? Like, what are you talking about? So it's hard not to even like get involved or get too invested in like comparing other children's development. But what we're realizing now is, now that we've kind of pushed a little further into like how, I don't know, kind of special he might be in that sense, is like, hey, this might be something we need to like watch out for. If he's physically this capable, is he going to have some higher intelligence that we need to like cater to? And that becomes its own like challenge, right? Yeah. So it's a good problem to have, but we're just here. I'm happy that I'm home in that sense, and I'm still producing a ton of content. I'm still going out training, and I hope that all of this is starting to slowly die down, and we're going to be able to open our gyms and go out and hang out again. But I think another beautiful factor is like Ultimate Tag has been a project that we filmed a year ago, and it's finally coming out. So we're here, we're able to sit down with each other and have a conversation like this. And I think there's a lot of positive that we've made out of this negative situation. And I'm going to just continue to try to do that until this whole thing's over. But being a dad's pretty rad.
Yeah, it's funny because to hear you say about, the legacy of your child already being decided before. I, for years, was told that I was never going to have kids.
I remember like the article or the video or something went viral where it was like, horse has his first child, breaks all rules of like life and physics, but the king of the nut shots. Like, oh man.
So I had a similar thing when we found out that we were going to have a child, everybody was like, "Oh, well, if it's a boy, he's going to be. Are you going to train him for nut shots?" And I was like, "Absolutely not!" Like, that's not in like any part of my brain of what I'm thinking. But then I ended up having 2 girls, and I was very grateful that I didn't even have to mess with that type of weird like space that would have
scenario.
been,
Yeah.
But I know one of the things that you kind of touched upon when we were talking when you initially were thinking that you were going to have a child was that like you were kind of like, I don't know if scared is the right word, but just like you didn't know if you were still going to kind of have your edge and still want to like do the things that you know, all of a sudden are you going to like want to not be pushing the limits or pushing yourself, or are you going to want to be like, no, I want to spend time with my kids and not do these projects? And how is that kind of, now that it kind of has pushed to reality? And I know the quarantine kind of slows things down a little bit, but how is it making you feel as a kind of like an action sport, as a parkour athlete and somebody that kind of like pushes themselves?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's interesting because I think part of me wants to say it hasn't affected me as much as I thought it would. And maybe that's because I've tried to work through it. But there's a lot that needs to be said about the idea that my career in stunts and being someone who's physically capable of doing these things and doing chase scenes or whatever it is, relies on the fact that I'm able to move. So now when I go out and train, I also need to understand that, well, my career, the money that my family has coming in, the longevity of what I'm capable of in terms of earning a living doing these physical feats is kind of like threatened by the simplicity of going out and trying to train like some sketchy thing and, you know, getting injured. And like, how does that affect my entire family now? So like there's a little more pressure on it all to like not get injured, but there's always been that pressure. No one wants to get injured. I love doing this thing. So, you know, and no one wants to die. I'm still like, but I think there is this part of me that also teeters with the idea of not being less capable. So now I'm almost like challenging myself. If I see a jump that maybe I normally would have been like, well, I'm pretty sure I could do it. So at this point in my career, I don't really need to do it because I know I can do it. Now there's almost this deeper thing that's like, yeah, or you just saying that because you don't want to get injured. So now I'm like doing these things where like I'll see it. I did it yesterday, I think. I was out training and there's this jump I had already done. And I remember it being a pretty big jump when I did it. It took me like a couple tries to get it right. And then yesterday I was like kind of in training. I was already warmed up and I was walking past it and I was like, I just put my bag down because I want to know that I'm physically capable of doing this thing first try without overthinking it. And like, sure enough, I went, attacked it, did it, landed it, picked my bag back up, kept walking. And it was just like this, you know, I never even thought that I would tell that story. It was just like this thing, this part of my training that is now like, it's just there. I didn't film it. And, you know, it's just like I needed to do that for myself and make sure that I still am as capable as I should be to be considered the guy that I believe I am within the sport and as a stuntman.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it sounds like, and that's kind of what I thought is that you were kind of going to get to is like you start taking things more seriously, even like it brings it to a different level of like, okay, I'm not like, you know, I'm doing what I love, but I'm not necessarily messing around. Like, you know, it
supercharges your ambition for sure. Like that was one of the most powerful things. I had Mark Clayton, who was an ex-NFL football player, and we sat down. Actually, I was in Dallas for this thing, and we sat down at a bar and just was talking. I was like talking, and this was before I knew I was going to have kids, but we were kind of discussing it, like, oh, maybe some point soon, because he had just had another kid. And he's like, well, here's the deal. Having a kid like supercharges your goals. It makes you don't have a choice. You have to achieve the things that you have ambitions about, because what other thing are you going to do? You know, like you're not going to want to fail. And I was like no one's ever said that. And like that little piece of advice was like, oh shit, I guess that's kind of cool. Like to look at it in a very positive way versus like the, oh shit, what am I'm going to have to get a 9 to 5. What if I'm not getting any jobs? Or like, no, it was like, no, now you have to do it. Now you have to do the things you want to do.
Yeah, and I took that to the extreme when I went to college and got a associate's degree in multimedia, uh, and then I got a job and I had my child along like a few months away from having my first child, my daughter Raiden, and I just was sitting in this office and I started getting that like closed in feeling like, oh man, I'm gonna be here the rest of my life. What am I gonna do? And it was right around when we like the break.com stuff that we were talking about, and I said, you know what, like, I can't imagine being a father and then this is what my life is. And so like it like pushed me to go fight for my dreams. So I like, as crazy as it sounds, 3 months before I had my daughter, I quit my job that I got with my degree in a magazine company doing design and went out and started professionally, in my eyes at least, really trying to be professional at doing stunts and getting hit in the nuts, which is, even now I can look at it and go, well, that's insane. But the way that I thought about it and the way that I still think about it to this day is I need to be the best me. I need to be me. And so if how am I going to be the best husband and the best dad if I'm not actually who I am?
Yeah.
And so like I think like you said, there's not that degree of being able to kind of be lazy and half do something when all of a sudden you're in charge of somebody else.
Yeah.
So being able to, again, we're both in a position where we can do the things that we love, which makes us happy, and then still have time to go home and spend that time at home with the people and our family that we love more than anything. And I think that's I can't, when people say, oh, you're crazy because you do this stuff, I would say, well, I feel like the stupid decision, the crazy decision would have been me sitting in that chair the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Like, so it's exciting, and it's exciting for a whole new reason. Because now when I was like, at first when I was doing stunts and people would see my videos, like I'm excited, and I'm kind of excited for myself. Like now I'm excited, for how it's going to like affect my daughter's life and how it's going to kind of like what she's going to inspire to do. And like, that's what I care about. Not like I want to be successful so I can help my daughters out. I can help give them a good life and show them that, if anything, show them like, hey, if you really want to do something, then put your heart and soul into it, and then you'll have no regrets. And I think that's what I want them to learn. So I am really genuinely excited for you. And when you told me that you were going to have a kid, I was like, damn, he's going to be an awesome dad, and I can't wait to see that. So
appreciate it.
Congratulations. So let me just really quickly look at my Instagram and see what crazy questions we got, and we'll just run through them really quick.
We'll do the rapid fire answers, not the Jesse Laflair 2-hour responses.
Let's see here. Wes Press says, favorite meal after a long day of destroying the competition.
Well, favorite meal after competition probably was like Red Bull vodka. Not quite a meal.
Yeah.
Most competitions ended with a crazy ass party, so we'll go with that. Not good advice for the young ones.
No.
Drink responsibly, kids.
The Riley Fox says, if you could hire someone to help you, would it be with cleaning, cooking, or yard work?
Ooh, yard work.
Yard work.
Cleaning, cooking. Yeah, yard work.
Yard work. I like in physical. Man, I would probably do. I like cleaning too. But I don't like cooking, so it'd probably be cooking for me.
I mean, I like cooking, but I guess if someone was a good cook and you were gonna just cook for me all the time, like maybe that I would rather go do physical labor than continue to eat my meals and try to refigure out how to make good stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a tough one.
Yeah. It's like
Next.
that's like a serious one. Somebody asked me real quick, what's the routine for your horse mane? And I would say, I don't know if they're talking about my hair or my beard, and I don't there's no routine. There's
Natural oils.
yeah, natural. If there's anything, it's funny if there's anything that comes out of this show and we could get some endorsement deals, I would love to put some product in my horse mane for sure. And I'll make a routine, but for now it's just rinse and dry. Ito Wilkes says, "Why does America do the garbage and call it TV?"
That's funny.
Very funny.
Yeah.
That's the thing. People are so serious about like TV stuff sometimes, which I don't really understand. We've been getting, obviously, even before the show, even before they announced Ultimate Tag, there was some feeling that it would be airing during the winter, which would be the football season. And there's this big concern that the Watt brothers would get all this slack from their fans being like, why aren't you focused on your football? Not being able to realize that like TV is like a pre-shot thing like 99% of the times.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like now that we're in quarantine, we're getting all this like, oh, they're not following social distancing and stuff. And it's like the people have no idea. It's a funny thing because I know that recently in the chat I got kind of like upset at somebody's comments, but one of my favorite things, and I did it when I was on America's Got Talent too, is my favorite thing is going and reading all the like the really shitty comments and like the haters, and I'll do it now as I've been going through and I've been liking all of them anytime somebody says something on Twitter, not about
good.
like about the show or anything, but like my favorite thing is like I don't really like. I got like a little ticked off this last one because it was like personal because of the quarantine and I was like freaking out. But like I love like going and seeing like the shitty comments. I love retweeting them and kind of like I can't imagine being in that position and being so angry about a TV show. So I think it's like the funniest thing in the world. Yeah. But all right, well, I'm gonna let you go. I did bring this down. I wanted to show this. This is the Laflair Pro model. I've been telling everybody about it, and I wear it to train. It's my second pair because I think actually one thing that doesn't get brought up enough is that the majority of us wore these on the show, which is like the coolest thing ever.
15 out of the 18 taggers, which is insane.
So I hope that helps sell some shoes because it's just not a shoe that you kind of like rep. It's your shoe that you designed, that you put time in to, and it's also I think represents it represents the parkour community in like every sense. Like this is what thousands and thousands of parkour athletes are going to be inspiring to do, and if this can be successful, which it should be. It's pushing on the next generation and pushing on more and more shoes and more kids and opportunities into the sport, into people's lives. So that's really exciting.
Hell yeah. Yeah, thanks for the plug.
Awesome,
yeah, I mean,
man.
and that's the beauty of everything I think we're doing is it's everything inspires like more to happen, right? And I think even a show like Ultimate Tag and us coming together to do this talk is like each one of these moments is a moment of time that I hope helps generate a little bit of energy to the things that helped us get to where we are today and be in this like very beautiful energy. And I don't know, I'm excited I can't wait for America to see this show and for people to hopefully be inspired to get outside and play again once all this stuff is done.
Yeah, man. May 20th, Wednesday, 9/8 Central, right after The Masked Singer on Fox, Ultimate Tag. Make sure you tune in. Jesse Laflair, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to go into the credits here, and I'm actually going to give you a nice little preview of Ultimate Tag.
Sick. Enjoy, guys. Thanks. Peace out.
Remember tag, that classic game you played as a kid? Well, now the playground kids are all grown up, and the future of tag is something you only could have dreamed of. The stakes are higher, but one rule remains the same. Don't get caught.
I'm JJ Watt.
I'm Derek Watt. And I'm TJ Watt.
And we're the hosts of Ultimate Tag. We basically set the stage for what's about to happen. We interview the players, the taggers, get to know them, get to know their personalities, let their personalities shine.
JJ's more like the head host, the broadcaster, and Derek and I are kind of like the sideline reporters.
And then really we try and kind of get out of the way and let the action do the talking. Basically there's 5 games to tag. Each one requires a different skill. One's strength, one's speed, one's stamina, one's agility. You never know which skill is going to benefit you and which skill is going to hurt you.
We have 3 men and 3 women each episode. You can't be a specialist here. You got to kind of have that overall, all-around, well-rounded athlete.
It's intense. It's basically a combination of every type of tag you could have. There's a couple rules and stuff, but at the end of the day, there's really just one rule, and it's the same as a playground. Don't get caught.
Oh, here comes the flow. What a play.
So we have our professional taggers. They each have their own thing. So we have a woman called the Boss who is just rocked up. I mean, she has bigger biceps than most of my teammates, or us even. We have a guy called the Flow who is one of the best athletes I've ever seen.
Oh, the diving Superman!
We got a guy called the Horse who broke his hand during filming and didn't care and kept going.
See how happy I am right now!
He's a bit psycho. We have a true psycho, the Banshee.
Wanted to eat their souls alive.
People are going to get invested in learning the taggers and the characters and picking a favorite and who they're rooting for.
The taggers are professional taggers in this setting, so when they don't get the competitors, they're genuinely really angry.
You better run!
These athletes are tremendous, and it's to the point where, I mean, they are putting it all on the line. We've had blown chunks, we've had tears, we've had yelling at each other, we've had to hold people back from each other.
You're dealing with Banshee's arena, and Banshee doesn't play.
It's literally like watching a sport, and there's fans in the arena, and we're all excited, we're all jacked up, and you get caught up in it.
Yeah! Wow! This is insane!
It's something that everybody can relate to. Everyone went out in their backyard and played tag. We all know what it's like to be the one getting chased and running like hell. And now you get to watch people on national television do it.
It's turned into its own sport, and it's really cool to see.